Welcome to Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Petersen, formerly Conversations with Kimen. This podcast is a space for inspiration, soulful insights, and meaningful life lessons. Your host, Kimen Petersen, draws from personal stories and powerful conversations with remarkable people to help illuminate your path. These episodes reflect his lived experiences and thoughtful perspectives, all aimed at encouraging you to live life with greater authenticity, joy, and ease. Your Inner Advocate is here to help you tune in, trust your inner wisdom, and move through life with more clarity, flow, and fulfillment.
Welcome back. Today's episode is about something that isn't mystical, it's not magical, and it's definitely not reserved for the chosen few. It's something that lives inside every single one of us. Intuition. And here's a truth that I've come to believe. Intuition isn't woo-woo. Intuition, it isn't exactly wisdom. Intuition is a lived experience. Intuition is your life speaking to you before your mind catches up. I don't think intuition is some cosmic power only granted to spiritual gurus. I think it's much simpler and much more profound. I believe that intuition is your brain processing all the information you can't consciously perceive. Because your mind can't focus on millions of cues that you're receiving every second. But something about your body can, your nervous system can, and your emotional memory can. And so intuition becomes, it's like a gentle nudge, a pull, a quiet this way. And yet it's so subtle that we sometimes ignore. As the quote says, intuition is the whisper of the soul. And today we're going to talk about how to hear it. So let's start from the beginning. I want to start out by saying something that might challenge your old beliefs, if you have. Intuition is not rare, but hearing it is. Because the truth is, intuition is always speaking. It's just that we are very often too loud. We're too busy. We're too only overstimulated. We're too tired. We're too distracted. And we're too influenced by fear, ego, and the opinions of every single human being around us. So this episode's an invitation to slow down, to tune in, to listen, and truly learn the art of listening to the quiet voice inside you that is always trying to lead you towards the life you're meant to have. But with this distinction that there is another voice there, the negative, the fear voice. And that's not intuition. Intuition is trying to take you towards something. And sometimes it's kind of this quiet, subtle, don't go that way. But it's never allowed fear. So it's interesting. I learned something interesting about my manual therapy practices, that intuition lives in it. And like I said, it's not magical. It's not woo-woo. Like when I first started out, I didn't really always trust my intuition. In fact, in the beginning of my work, I trusted everything but my intuition. I trusted my textbooks. I trusted protocols. I trusted this is how it's supposed to be done. But something interesting kept happening in my practice. When new clients would walk into my practice, before they even sat down, something in me would be drawn to a certain part of the body, the shoulder, the hip, the way they held their breath, the heaviness in their eyes. It was never loud and not really obvious, but it was definitely there. But consciously, I didn't really understand that, but something within me did. It's the same with emotional weight. I could see it before they even said a word. The heaviness, some people try to hide. They think they're hiding it. And the nervous system reads it instantly. There's a quote that says, your body knows the truth before your mind does. And I don't think that could be any more accurate. So as I started growing my practice, I started to listen with my hands. As I gained experience, something started happening. My hands would know when to stop, right? I'd be working on somebody and my hands would say, okay, that's enough. And it wasn't my brain, it wasn't logic, and it wasn't a checklist. It wasn't even words. It was my hands. They just knew. There would be this sudden feeling like, okay, you've done enough. That's enough, move on. And there was times in the beginning of my practice that I wouldn't listen to that. Because, logic says, no, work more in this area of like, I haven't done enough. There's a little bit more to do here. Something like that would be going through my head. Or I've got to do the full routine, or there's no way I could be finished yet. That's too fast. But every single time, or almost every time I ignored this inner knowledge, the result was the same. I would leave the person in pain. Like literally, almost every single time. It was like my intuition was standing there shaking its head. Okay, I tried to warn you. Maybe you'll listen next time. But when I did listen, everything was different. When I really listened to my hands and when they said move on, people felt better. Not just initially, but over the long term. And then they started getting better faster. Their bodies responded better to the treatment. And their pain eased much more naturally. And they left lighter. And that's when I learned something that was incredibly life-changing. Intuition is a form of intelligence. It's experience, sensitivity, and awareness, all working quietly beneath the surface. And the more I trusted it, the more effective I became. One day I had a client who walked in smiling, absolutely fine on the outside. And it's not just once this happened, it happens quite often now. But the moment they walked through the door, something whispered inside me. There's something there. The way she's breathing. There's grief. See, there was no sign of it on the surface. There was a smile on her face. Nothing in her posture showed it. Even her words were upbeat. And yet it was so there. And just like with my hands understanding when to stop, something inside me said, Are you okay? So I just looked her in the eye and said, are you okay? And then she just broke down. There were tears. There was deep, stored emotion. And in the end, she said, yeah, I didn't even know. And all I could think was, her body knew. But that's my practice. In my life, it's interesting too. I've kind of learned that there's been times in my life when I've really ignored the gentle push or the gentle pull. And that's the thing, it's so subtle. in my life outside the clinic, my intuition was actually speaking to me constantly. Little nudges, little sensations, little go this week, or go this way, or don't go there. And for years of my youth and through my life, I really did ignore it. Because a logical, overthinking part of me said, that doesn't make sense. You're just imagining things. You can't trust that. And every time I ignored those gentle pushes, I paid for it. Sometimes in incredibly painful ways, sometimes in delayed growth, like a lesson that kept on cycling back and cycling back and cycling back until I finally gave in and I learned. And many times staying in places much longer than I should have. There's a quote that says, you can ignore your intuition, but the truth is you can't escape what's meant for you. Which is both terrifying and comforting to me. Terrifying is like, what if I don't hear it? What if I don't listen or act on it? Comforting in the fact that whatever's meant for me will keep on cycling back until I finally align with it. And one of the biggest examples is the current work I am. Intuition had been nudging me down this path for years. And I'm not saying specifically nudging me into the practice I'm in, because there was nothing specific about it, like which direction to go at the time. But there was very specific information telling me that the path I was on wasn't right for me. But you know what? What did I do? I argued with it. I overthought it. I talked myself out of it. Fear, like I can't go back to school. I don't have enough money. Like I wanted to stay, I thought comfortable. I thought like maybe I can just stay in comfort because I thought it was what I was doing was comfortable. But the truth is it wasn't comfort. It was lack of discomfort. It's like I was living a manageable level of discomfort. That was manageable. And my fear was the discomfort of moving forward would cause more discomfort. So I stayed small. I stayed logical. You know, the beautiful thing about life is you can go through these cycles for a very, very long time. And you're probably familiar with this. That the lesson will repeat itself until it's learned. And I knew that I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to do, but I knew I was supposed to be doing something that would help people. And yet all the reasons, all the logic, all the fears kept me in the manageable level of discomfort. Ooh, I like that. A manageable level of discomfort. But the beautiful thing about the universe is what is meant for you will happen. And the greatest thing is like there's this plan for our life, I believe. I've talked about this before, in free will. And you can go willingly or unwillingly, but you are going. And that's what our free will means, is like we have the free will to go willingly or unwillingly towards our destination, but we are going. And the great thing is the universe will give you smack you on the ground. 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 Smack And eventually life said, okay, if you're not moving voluntarily, I'll move you. And it did. Suddenly and forcefully. And it all came with a Sunday in extreme stress. And I got home from an emergency call from work. And I'm sitting on the couch. And I can't catch my breath. And my chest hurts. And I'm just like, I can't catch my breath. And I went down to the clinic across the street. They rushed me in with the doctor. They rushed me to the cardiac ward. And I sat there and I said, so this is how it ends. And I said, hey, if there's anything listening, if the universe is listening, if life is listening, if anyone is listening, help me get out of this. And I promise you I'll find what I'm meant to do in this world. And of course, the universe is going to say, put up or shut up. So I put in my resignation. And then it started rearranging things. The universe did. Put people in my path, opportunities, relationships, finances. One thing after another. And the next thing you know, I'm back in school. It was like everything clicked. And I'm not saying it wasn't hard, because it was. Financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it was hard. But you know what? I've said this before. If life said, you can do it all over if you want, and you can change things if you want, I realized I wouldn't change anything. And I would go through it even harder as long as I knew I was able to come back to this, here, now, the work I do, and this, my podcast, the sharing of my message. Because every single thing taught me and developed me so I can be this person now. The truth is, you cannot miss what is meant for you, but you can delay it. But the great thing is, the longer you delay it, the more life turns up the volume. So let's talk about what's got in my way. And it's literally the noise that blocks your intuition. You know, when life is too loud, if your life is too noisy, like always sound, no time to like stop and just watch how your mind is operating, what's going on. It's going to be really, really hard to ever hear your intuition. Because intuition doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, and it will not chase you. It just whispers again and again. It feels like a soft pull. It's a very gentle and subtle knowing. A gentle this way. And noise, busy schedules, scrolling, external opinion, constant stimulation, alcohol, drugs, all that life noise, it drowns it out. Because the truth is, you don't have to work at developing your intuition. You just need to create calm, quiet silence and learn to hear it. So the truth is, quiet moments are not optional. And this exactly is why quiet time is essential for development and growth and like getting on your path. Like I said, you're not going to miss it, but do you really want to delay your ultimate life? Moments of stillness, moments focusing on the breath, moments turning inward, moments just watching how your brain is working. Like, what are the thought processes coming up? Which way do they go? Like, it's almost like you could imagine your mind as a beautiful, clear brook, like a small stream, no more than 4 feet wide. And it's fall. And you're just sitting on the side watching this stream. And there's leaves floating in the stream and they're going by. And the truth is, it's just like your mind. There's thoughts going through. They're just floating by. And why would you connect so much energy on any one single leaf? Because there'll just be another and another and another and another. But you could just watch the leaves. Like, what kind of leaf is that? And like, what's the similarity in the leaves? And is there lots of leaves here and lots of leaves there? Is any of this telling me anything? It's like, maybe like, is there a message here? Or even more, maybe you haven't been in touch with your mind. You haven't silently listened to your mind in a long time because you've been so busy. And maybe it's a time you could take and look. And like, whoa. Like recently, I moved. I used to live, it was like 2-minute walk from my apartment door into my clinic. So there wasn't a lot of time. Not a lot of time to be with my mind or anything. It was just rush, go, rush, go, rush, go. And now I live like a little bit over 1 kilometer away. So there's a 12 to 15-minute walk in the morning and in the afternoon. The amazing thing I realized is I used to have this chaotic mind full of negativity, go, 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 go. And as I was walking back and forth, I realized that, oh, wow, there's still some negative thoughts. But my mind isn't filled with a ton of thoughts. There's no chaotic thoughts. Things are much more calm. There's so many fewer leaves floating by. And it was like, I can see how far I've come. There's people who say, I don't have intuition. But if they only understood what they really need, is I've never stopped long enough to hear it. Because stillness, all these busy people, stillness is not laziness. Stillness is clarity. So there's this quote that says, when the mind is quiet, the soul speaks. And that's pretty much how intuition works. It doesn't compete. It's not going to try to fight or drown out the noise. It doesn't yell because it doesn't need to. It just waits quietly, patiently, softly until you're ready. And when you finally slow down, you'll probably realize it was speaking all along. Another thing that I've realized, and I've mentioned it before, if you notice that the same lessons keep coming back, right? If you're in the same relationships, they turn out the same way. If you're in the same struggles, in the same arguments, even if you say all these are like that and all those are like this, and like life is not fair or something, it's probably your intuition trying to get your attention, right? Like I said, it'll start gently. Everything starts gently. Everything starts quietly and little nudges. And as you keep on delaying, the nudges get loud, more and more and more. And the cycles keep on coming until you learn the lesson. But eventually, in order to make sure that you don't miss the opportunity, life will knock you on your butt. Repeating patterns are not failures. They're actually invitations to take a look at who you're being. It's been said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over while expecting a different result. And Albert Einstein also said something to the effect of, the problems of today cannot be solved with the same level of consciousness that created them. If the same relationship dynamic keeps repeating, if the same mistake keeps on showing up, if the same emotional wound keeps on resurfacing, that's not coincidence, that's guidance. But one of the biggest barriers of all, and for me, I could never have moved forward until I realized this, is that your negative thoughts, your ego, your negative internal dialogue, your inner critic, it's not you. It's an aspect of you, but that doesn't encompass who you actually are. You actually choose who you are. You get to choose, because if you think for one moment, like, have you ever had a negative thought and another part of you goes, no, that's not true. That's you making a choice. That's you declaring. That's you intentionally being, as I call it, your inner advocate. But the truth is, when we listen too much, when we allow that negative voice to hold too much space and it gets loud, your intuition gets nearly impossible to hear. Because intuition's gentle and the inner critic is the loud one, aggressive and relentless, like mine is, oh my God. But when I stopped believing the negative voice, when I stopped indulging it, that's when clarity returned. I realized the inner critic is fear and intuition is truth and guidance. And they feel completely different. Fear tightens, intuition expands. Fear screams, intuition nudges. Fear confuses, intuition clarifies. So in the end, intuition, like I said, is not magic. It's not mystery, and it's not for a chosen few. It's always inside you, and it's always been there. It's a guide. It's like a compass. It's a gentle push. Sometimes it comes as a feeling. Sometimes it comes as a sense of ease. And sometimes it comes as a pull. And your only job is to listen. Because when you do, life becomes clearer. Your path becomes smoother. And you end up becoming more aligned with a version of yourself. The one you are here to be, you're meant to be. Your intuition knows the way. Your job is simply to follow. Thanks for spending some time with me again. Thank you for listening. Keep doing the inner work. Know that somewhere there, the intuition is speaking. But most of all, keep building your own inner advocate.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Petersen, formerly Conversations with Kimen. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.